Death Valley is 282 feet below sea level. Would it offset the rising ocean to build a canal and create the Death Valley Sea? A form of this question is asked surprisingly frequently, i.e., could we create a canal to X depression, fill it with ocean water, and offset sea level rise? The answer, regardless of the particular depression chosen, is always the same. Specifically no, because 1. The ocean is large, 2. The cost generally would be prohibitively high, for very little gain, and 3. You would be creating an ecological nightmare. For the flavor of the day in terms of Death Valley as a particular example, let's break down the specific reason why this frequent shower thought doesn't hold much water, pun intended. 1. The ocean is large. The surface area of the ocean is 3.61 x 108 km2. So whether we want to account for a particular rate of sea level rise or a fixed amount of sea level rise, we need to consider the volume of water we're talking about. There is a ton of nuance in how sea level actually rises, including variations in rates of sea level rise both temporally and spatially that reflect diverse influences and meaningful challenges in using either rates or fixed amounts of sea level rise in our simple volumetric calculations, because the shape of the coastlines and coastline topography influences how much a given volumetric addition to the ocean equals in terms of vertical rise. For our purposes, let's just ignore that and pretend we're dealing with a bathtub model, i.e., we can take the modern surface area and multiply by the rate or fixed amount to get a rate of volume of increase or a fixed volume increase. Let's just take the current rate of sea level rise of 3.4 mm per year and pretend this is static. It's not, to convert that to a volumetric increase per year, which doing the math gets us tilde 1200 km3 per year. Now, let's consider Death Valley, and we'll use the values from the wiki article suggesting its lowest point is 86 meters below sea level and it has an area of 7,800 km2. We'll assume it's a box of that area at the maximum depth and that we can't fill it above sea level. This gives us a volume of approximately 670 km3. Going back to the volume, tilde 1200 km3 of sea level rise in 1 year. This suggests that filling Death Valley would take care of sea level rise for a little more than a half a year. Or, put another way, filling Death Valley to sea level would reduce global sea level by approximately 2 m. Broadly, you'll find a similar calculus for pretty much any depression. Obviously larger ones would buy you longer and using more of them would buy you longer still. But ultimately you're fighting against a basic property, i.e., the ocean accounts for approximately 70% of the surface area of our planet. So fundamentally dealing with sea level rise by filling portions of the remaining 30% is only sustainable for so long, i.e., the ocean is large. 2. It would be ridiculously expensive. Let's say we for some reason wanted to do this despite the fact that it would buy us less than a year. Digging a canal from the ocean to Death Valley would be a huge undertaking. Taking the shortest distance would be approximately 360 km and would pass over 2 mountain ranges, requiring you to pump all of this water over those, or build pipelines through. If you went with what would probably be the lowest elevation path, from the northern tip of the Gulf of California, this doubles the straight line distance. Building such a canal in either case would be hugely expensive and take years, again, to buy us 1/2 of a year of the current rate of sea level rise. Again, this is a similar challenge for pretty much any floated fill up this depression idea and location, i.e., it would require an absolutely massive infrastructure to complete, that would generally take an order of magnitude longer to build than it would take to fill up. 3. It would be an ecological disaster. We could envision 2 scenarios. We either fill the basin and then close off the canal, basically making a salt lake, or we keep the canal open and connected. In the former, the eventual desiccation of the lake would leave behind a variety of precipitates, that when picked up by wind, would produce a variety of hazards for nearby areas, see examples in the Aral Sea, Salton Sea, etc. In the second, you're basically creating a weird large-scale bay, which at least would have fewer air quality impacts. Either way, the process of filling your depression of choice will effectively destroy whatever ecosystem was there prior. For example, the depression of the day, Death Valley, has a rich native ecology, which again, you'd be destroying to buy us 1/2 a year worth of sea level rise. Edit to address some of the largely unfounded assumptions being made in the replies. Filling Death Valley will make rain. This is debatable. As I've commented elsewhere, what happens when you impound water in terms of local climate is complicated, e.g., The consideration of climatic effects of reservoirs by Zhao et al. 2021. The assumption that local evaporation will necessarily lead to greater local precipitation is problematic, to say the least, especially given the broad arid conditions. Consider the Salton Sea as a semi-local example. I could find no literature to suggest that the accidental creation of the Salton Sea changed local or regional precipitation patterns in any way. Filling Death Valley will replenish groundwater. Soil, sediments, rock, generally, does not have particularly great desalination potential, so the extent to which the ocean water filling Death Valley would infiltrate and reach local unconfined aquifers, you would broadly be adding saline water, and essentially poisoning the well, especially given that the aforementioned high rates of evaporation would be turning this lake into a hypersaline body of water over time. Any of this brine entering the groundwater system would be problematic.